Our next speaker is Ian Dowson, and Ian's done some really, really interesting research on the whole sort of digital scene in London. And I've actually read the report, though I'm not sure if it's available yet.
No, it's not.
Not, but it's a really interesting. It's almost published.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really interesting report, and it certainly had a few surprises for me. But I'll put you over to Ian.
Right. Good evening. Thank you for giving me your time. My contention is that deep knowledge is powering another regeneration of London. That's the old crest of Shoreditch: more light, more power, and it couldn't be more appropriate to what's happening now. Right, 4 things to share. I've studied in detail 43 companies. I think place is very, very important. I want to explore one thread of the creativity which is going on, and I think human networks are tremendously powerful and unique to London. That's the get out clause. Forget that. So what have I done? The first thing I did as a graduate trainee was a fibre to the home experiment in Stevenage, where we wired up 100 people to see whether they would like 100 channels of cable TV, and to see whether we could put fibre optic cable TV under the ground. So content and technology has been with me all my career. I've done loads of things, but I just highlighted one. I did corporate development for a small PLC. It sounds good, but we didn't have any money. We couldn't even afford to spell the word lean. We had to learn a very big word called collaboration, and we had to apply it to our employees, to suppliers, to customers, to anybody else out there who could help us. So I think I got a fundamentally different way of operating in my DNA. I got into selling things, managing selling of businesses. I did a media disposal. I picked up something very different was happening in London. There just seemed to be a buzz around. All of the buyers for this business would come in and say, "Isn't the internet going to close you down?" And we had an answer that, look at the profits, very big number. Look at the legacy and the brands. Look at the millions of newspapers we put in people's hands every day. Blah, 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 blah. I didn't quite believe that. What did I do then? I started to go into dark bars in Shoreditch, Brick Lane, and the old Watney's Brewery. And I'm a man in his 50s, right? I've got white hair. The room was full of people half my age. Bit daunting. I found something very strange. People would actually speak to me, right? People were actually speaking together. This is Britain. This is something we don't do, right? I've worked in America a lot, basically Columbus, Ohio. You know, that's pretty Midwestern, but there people speak to one another. I think, that's a bit like what happens in North America. I started to meet a group of really incredible techies. I started to meet MBAs. I started to meet PhDs. I started to meet artists. And after I met this artist, whom at 9 o'clock, having been in a bar in Shoreditch for 3 hours with 3 beers, he took out a piece of rice paper, and he then did a Japanese calligraphy, perfect, a beautiful drawing, just like that on the floor of a bar. And then I had a discussion with him about natural language processing, right? It started to do my brain in. Who are these people? Are they aliens? And so I decided I was going to study them. And what do I think I was doing? I think I was doing what that guy does. I'd seen the music. I'd seen something going on. I decided to follow it. Digital London, how big do I think it is? I think there's 250 companies being managed by PEs, 200 in the incubators. I've probably met the majority of them. That's what you see reported in the press. The other two major categories are never reported by anybody. There's 200 in PLCs. Sky, the Daily Telegraph, Media Room, BBC. They employ hundreds of people generating digital knowledge. 350 have pivoted out of traditional media. There's 35,000 creative businesses in London. I think only 1% of them really understand media. They're all called media. Every agency is a digital media agency now. But I think 350 of them really do generate knowledge. That's what's powering it. We're number one in the charts, internet-enabled economy. Admittedly, those numbers come from a Boston consulting group report, so, you know, take them at that. But number one in the chart, and we're still going to remain there. 8.3% of GMP, 50% growth over the next 3 years to 12.4. Retail sales, 100 billion going up to 230 billion. 23% of retail sales. We're almost going to be double the rest of Europe, right? These are significant numbers. We've gone through the changes. Our economy has been fundamentally changed by the internet. And I believe content and media are next. And all these kind of things are going to revolutionize those industries. Advertising, marketing, television, you name it, it's going to be changed in that area. And I've just tried to highlight some of the things some of the major changes. I studied 43 companies who advertised last year at the Silicon Milk Roundabout. Found 630 graduates. 106 investors have put into those 43 companies over $400 million. I think I've got a statistically significant sample there. The human capital, I finally found out who were these people I was meeting. Half of them are computing graduates. 21% of them are actually business graduates. 17% of them are professionally qualified content generators. 27% of them advanced degrees. 28 PhDs in 43 startups. These are not Mickey Mouse PhDs. Cambridge, Harvard, Oxford, really high-powered individuals. Some of the quality of the PhDs, some of them have been mapping the genome, you know, winning prizes. Amazing people. Then I think one of the most significant things in generating creativity is that 28% of the graduates were trained outside of the United Kingdom. I think that's vital because I know these islands. I've been here a long time. The British think inwards. By having 28% of the graduates, we think outwards. They invert the glass from being closed to being opened. And then I found these 37 MBAs, people who could do business plans a lot better than I could do, Harvard, London Business School, yeah. Steve thought this was important, the combination of design, technology, and focus. It's something that he always went on about. The technical systems, there's a lot of words there, but it's all open source. Agile, Lean, and Scrum power the project management. Even the government gets this. The government, a select committee, has got a big section in one of the reports about Agile, Lean, and Scrum. All Unix, Linux-based. The computing establishment, you don't see it. Costs too much, takes too long, and it can't do it. The type of company, I apologize for the complexity, but the business models are complex. We'll just go through one, otherwise I'll be here all night. Big data business models, four major components: social network, content, retailing, and cloud. The monetization can occur in either of those boxes. You've got to look hard for the monetization. These are complex business models. You would think, how are they making money out of it? And again, with social networks, content, and retailing, the economic impact of the people that they're employing, because obviously these businesses have very low revenues, somewhere between 17 million and 50 million. Financing. $400 million, there's one very big one, Last FM, take that out, that still is $164 million on 42 projects. You know, one very large privately funded computer laboratory, powered by PhDs, powered by the smartest people in our society. The seed investors, 9 of the companies go out to the West Coast seed investment establishment, YCOM, 500 startups, Silicon Valley Angels, 9 out of 43. They're internationalizing their business from day one. $40 million have been put up by individuals, so people have a big stake. You're seeing the rise of the very large angel, you know, people who put in $500,000, $1 million into a startup. This is starting to replicate what happens in Silicon Valley. Exits. There wouldn't be any of this unless you can cash out. The first series of exits were silly, right? Why anybody paid that amount of money? $1.3 billion for Last FM, Bebo, Playfish. And I claim Bebo for London because the 2 graduates, Michael Birch and Mrs. Birch, right? Imperial College graduates. Phase 2 exits, more sensible. 14 deals, $1.8 billion. These are in the last 13 months. Below, but not included in the $1.8 billion, there's another $800 million worth of deals that have been done for advertising and digital agencies. These are predominantly the United States buying our best and most creative advertising and digital agencies. However, there's a lot of millionaires being made. As soon as their non-compete expires, what do you think they are going to be doing? Right? They're not going to be sitting on a yacht, I can tell you that. And that, again, will feed back into the ecosystem, probably in 24 months. Place. I just want to concentrate upon the assertion that there's no technology in Silicon Roundabout. Silicon Roundabout is a joke, right? Silicon Roundabout is a rip-off. Silicon Roundabout is Web 1.0. You come out of Silicon Roundabout, the first thing you look at is Inmarsat. 150 engineers in there, hard science, geostationary satellites. You go 250 yards down the road, you see Avanti Communications Limited, quoted on AIM, worth £344 million, 10 megabyte satellite broadband worldwide. You know, that's within 250 yards. To focus on news, because news powers the city, you have AI Hit, a $5 million artificial intelligence news scraper, 800 yards from Bloomberg. Bloomberg, 1/1,000,000 of a second isn't fast enough. Again, all in one location. And finally, to take them on about there's no silicon or hard science in Silicon Roundabout. 2.5 miles away at Queen Mary University, you have Europe's largest antennae research laboratory. If I was an American mobile phone manufacturer and had problems with my signals, in an afternoon, they could tell you why. They tell Nokia why their phones can't pick up signals. 2.2 miles away, 10-minute bike ride, you have University College London. They're inventing something called memristors, the next generation of flash memory. There's no hard science in Silicon Roundabout at all. Hard science. There's so much science in London, hard science, but you don't see it. It's such a rich ecosystem. This is something we all know in this room. There's David Tennant speaking to his bank manager there, right? But I don't think there's anything wrong with the professionals. You've seen a lot of these guys. You know them all. You know, they're brilliant, all of them. But then I'd just like to focus on a comment by Andy Haldane, the guy at the Bank of England in charge of financial stability, saying these companies are tiny, but a decade and a half ago, so was Google. If that's not a policy steer, I don't know one. If you're having problems with regulation and regulators, pick up the phone, speak to Andy. Creativity, this creativity stuff, what is it? That's Hockney, hand, eye, and heart. This is a comment he made about him getting deaf. You have to look. Notice he started doing his paintings with a big black border around them. Funny that, isn't it? And then this is a comment about, oh, it's an iPad, that big black border. Apologies, ladies and gentlemen. This is comments about the new technology. This thought the new technology is taking away the hand. I'm not so sure. If you look around, a lot is opening up. Does any of you who went to his exhibition at the Royal Academy? Beautiful paintings of Yorkshire, that was the theme. In the main gallery, he had a massive painting of a wood, and then 50 paintings around it. Then there were two other galleries, and I'll start at the one furthest away. The one furthest away was his iPad gallery, and he explained how he generated iPad paintings. The next gallery was an audio-visual gallery, wall-to-wall TV, and he had filmed the locations where his paintings were in the other galleries. So an old painting, he'd do it of summer, spring, winter and autumn, and then you'd see the video of summer, spring, winter and autumn. In the main gallery, those 50 paintings I talked about, they were iPad paintings which had been digitally printed. And he went along to this wood every day for 50 days and then did a painting, did an iPad painting. Printed them out, put them on the walls and contrasted them with existing art. What was he doing? He was taking high quality content, displaying it in original fashion, but then putting it through a multiplicity of digital media in order to generate different levels of emotion to get different levels of engagement. When I speak to the digital media people in Shoreditch, this is what they do every single day of the week. It's amazing. Britain's greatest living artist, allegedly, has come to the same conclusion as all those people in Shoreditch. I just find it absolutely amazing. Johnny seems to agree with this concept. Yeah, that's our second the most famous artist, in my opinion. Northumberland Polytechnic, St. Martin's. The iPhone. Ecosystem. When London talks, not when London burns. We've done this for a long time. Coffee houses, starting up with Janeway's. I think that's where she got in episode 219, all the way down to Coles. There's a massive ecosystem there, and it is massive. And I categorize it as governors, gatherers, and chieftains. And they have about 100,000 people. That's the primary system. We have an amazing media. They get knocked too much. They're highly intelligent. They pick up what's happening and are able to communicate it so us normal humans can understand what's going on. But then there's a massive internet of folk going on in this city, and we are part of it. 25,000 open source systems meet up people. 34,000 entrepreneur meet up people in meetups every night of the week. This is the governors, gatherers, and chieftains. Sorry, it's a busy slide. There's lots of spheres, and that's because it is busy, and there are lots of spheres of influence. I don't know whether you know any of the people, Elizabeth at TechCrunch, Christian at Minibar, Digital Shoreditch, Cam, Paul at Dreamscape, you might be familiar with him, Heart of Gold, Nesta TSB, absolutely tremendous work. The people at Skills Matter, you've got any kind of open source problem, they will either solve it for you or put you in touch with the world's best expert. Generosity of spirit, an open door comes through all of that. It's not who you are, it's what you can contribute. The open source software human system. All these meetups, 45 meetups, 25,000 people, that's out a day. It could be double that. But when you look at the specific individual ones, the knowledge being transferred is priceless. I've been along to talks which have been absolutely amazing, which you pay IBM 10, 20, 50 grand for. You know, again, the generosity of people to allow their knowledge to be shared. Entrepreneurs' human system. One thing is really sure, if you are a lonely startup or a lonely entrepreneur, you die very quickly. Welcome to the madhouse. You can meet people who are as mad as you are, and they'll start helping you. Massive, massive. Steve, famous quote, follow your heart. Neil Young, this old man, he's still doing it. And the final takeaway, I think this human capital combination is remarkable, but it's something which London has always done. Take the best minds, focus them, finance them, and then project their ideas worldwide. The business models are innovative. You've got to work hard to understand where the value chain is. Finance is recycling. This is something I don't need to emphasize to this group, but you're 600 meters away from the city. If you don't like the configuration of financial services, do something about it. Or there's a massive customer base there for you. The roundabout has silicon. This city is built on technology. The more we talk, the more business we'll do. And London now is at the center of this fundamental change in content and advertising industries. And finally, if it's not too flaky, follow your heart and follow that music. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for Ian?
Hi. Thanks, Ian. Very inspirational. There is an enormous amount of digital content which the BBC has digitized, I think 7 years worth from all over the UK. How do young entrepreneurs get access to that digitized content without violating, patent rights and IP and all that kind of stuff? How do they do it legally, or how do they get a moratorium until they know that they've got IP that they can make into a business?
At the moment, they don't. Right, this is one of the big problems. But the government is on it. They're doing a review. I've spoken to the guys doing the review. They are sensible about it. They get it. And I think that the government gets it. We can only hope that they create a legal framework to allow media mashups to occur. Because again, that's a key driver of digital media, to be able to mash up stuff, to be able to put it on a smart TV, a phone, or a tablet. But I think our government gets that. The legal framework for copyright and content ownership is out of date. A lot of industries now face the problem of the music business, which basically has destroyed itself by being dominated by accountants and lawyers, by refusing to license out to everybody the music. But I'm relatively positive. I found that the government gets it, and I think maybe the Europeans might get it as well. So if there's a moratorium until you got to a certain level, that's the answer, and then the content owner monetizes it.
If I just get for example, if you work as a sort of researcher within a university, you have access to that kind of intellectual property, and you're not violating any rights. It occurs to me that perhaps some sort of work with some university, in conjunction with the BBC, for instance, would not be a bad thing to do.
No, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be. I had a conversation with the research director of UCL last week. He's got £1 billion worth of publicly financed technology. He'll give it to you. Go and speak to him. They are desperate for projects. Go to UCL, giving 250 words. If he thinks your idea is good, he'll give you 3 or 4 researchers.
This question is slightly informed, but you've kind of talked about that sort of London tech scene, all the Shoreditch crew. In terms of the fintech, financial technology, the sort of demographic of the people who are getting involved, do you have any sort of insights into whether this scene? I mean, I'm not really sure. When I think about sort of Silicon Valley, I'm kind of thinking more along the Groupons and these kind of Last FM sort of media type companies. I'm interested to know whether that sort of scene is actually, you actually find more, say, people who used to work in banking moving into fintech, or whether it's actually the sort of creative scene that's moving in there.
Well,
does that make sense?
Yeah. There is the big digital divide of the city road, right? North of it, you've got Shoreditch. South of it, you've got the city. However, the city is now starting to come north. For instance, Skills Matter, the open source software people. If you want to do high performance computing, you don't use an IBM product, you use Apache, right? Who can tell you how to do that? You've got to go up to the Skills Matter to get the training. So that interaction is starting, and there are a number of big data and back office process people specifically aimed at the city. I try and encourage the digital media types to aim for the city, because putting metadata around video, you're gonna have a lot of competition. Putting metadata around a derivative product, very similar, you might not have a lot of competition to do that, but I can assure you, financially, it's going to be very, very much more rewarding. So I think there's a divide, but I think that the technologies which are appearing in digital London are just as relevant to all of the large companies in the city.
Okay, thank you very much, Ian. Thank you.